That guy right there was probably the single most revolutionary thing that I saw at NEAF last year. And when I saw it, of course, ZWO wanted me to test one. So they sent me one, and this is it, okay? This is actually a prototype model. This is not a production run version. And so I got a very early one, and I have a couple complaints about it, but I want you to take those with a grain of salt, because those are probably because it's a prototype, and I actually have not heard anybody else complain about the tooth issues that I've ever had with this thing. So the number one issue was that I haven't been able to get it to connect to a cell phone. I had no problem connecting to an iPad, but connecting to a cell phone, for some reason, I have not been able to get it to work. But I have looked recently on the forums, and I haven't really seen anybody else on YouTube saying that they've had issues with that. So probably just mine. Yeah. The other little issue that I've had with it, we're just starting off with the negatives here, because I've got a lot of positive things to say, is that with mine, I've noticed that when it parks focus, okay, when it puts itself away and when it wakes itself back up, the parked focus position is kind of so far out of focus that this thing has a hard time focusing. And of course, you can go into the software now and manually focus it and get it close, and then turn on autofocus and let it finish, and it's just fine, okay? And once again, this is something that I've heard nobody else that I know of complain about. So it is probably just my prototype model here that has this little issue. But yeah, this thing is pretty cool. So who is this for? I'm going to tell you right up front what kind of market this is for. So if you're interested in kind of like experimenting with astrophotography, you want to get your feet wet, you don't want to spend a lot, this is $500, which is very cheap these days, okay? And it's everything that you need. You buy this and you're done, okay? You're ready to take pictures. It'll go to places in the sky, it'll plate solve for you, it'll focus for you, it will stack the images for you, it will produce a finished image which you can then text your friends or share on Instagram or put on Facebook or wherever you put your pictures, okay? Now, that's like, okay, so like that's one of the reasons why I say like a camera like this, like the all-in-one, this is the best camera that Olympus has ever made for astrophotography. However, I would not say go buy this for astrophotography. I would say if you do terrestrial photography and you want to also do astrophotography, well, yeah, get one of these, okay? I liked it so much, I got two. If you really want to get into things, okay, like you can start building a rig like this with a dedicated camera, and these are cooled, and they do amazing jobs. This guy is kind of like an in-between of this and something like that, except really downsized and just kind of stripped down to the absolute minimum of every single feature set that you need. But every single one of them works seamlessly, which is what's so great about this thing. So that's kind of the praise that I have for this thing and where it's positioned in the market and so forth. Now, I'm going to show you like two images here, okay? So number one, the first one here is Orion, which is a really easy target to take. And with this little guy, it's, one picture, one 10-second exposure is enough, okay? Now, that's an easy one, okay? It's a pretty bright target. Now, just how good does this thing do? I was actually really surprised, okay? I went to this next target here I'm going to show you, and this is a target that's not in any major catalogs, okay? And you don't really see it imaged very often, really almost never. This is a really faint target, okay? Very, very faint. One sub shows nothing, okay? This is actually the accumulation of about 50 minutes, which for 50 minutes, I mean, and this tiny little guy here, a 50mm Apo triplet with a little color sensor in it, with a very small sensor I might add, that's amazing that you're able to see this kind of detail, which is why I think that this thing's cool, because you can kind of go exploring space and just, picking different things that are out there, just, randomly going through the sky and so forth. Now, I know, I'm the Narrowband channel, so what do I think of it for narrowband imaging? Honestly, I actually haven't been able to test it yet. I do have a 2-inch dual band narrowband filter, and when I get around to doing like a full review for this thing, I'll show you some images taken with a dual narrowband filter, because printing a little clip-on attachment that goes on the front lens of this thing and using it with a dual narrowband filter is quite easy. You know, there is actually a built-in filter into this guy, which is kind of like a multi-spectra type filter. It kind of captures a lot of different band passes. I really kind of wish they'd just gone straight to a dual band filter, but you know, oh well. You know, it mostly captures natural looking color images with the type of filter that they did put in here. A dual band filter, you'll have to do a little bit of processing to it. But you can do that, and you can export FITS files from this, so you can actually start getting your feet wet in probably the hardest part of astrophotography, and that is the processing side of it. All right. So there's one little limitation out there that's written about this thing, and they say that it only has a range of 15 feet. Okay, that's true, but it's not. Okay. In order to connect to it, you need to be about 15 feet away from it, and that's because you connect via Bluetooth. Once you're connected, it sets up a Wi-Fi, and then you can connect via, and then it automatically pretty much connects via Wi-Fi. And then from there, once you've done that, you can kind of walk away from this thing. In fact, I have been able to walk about 60 feet away from this and go into my house, which is a brick house, okay, and through 2 walls, still stay connected to this guy and be able to sit in my easy chair, my lazy boy, okay, and watch TV while images roll in on the iPad, and I'm able to kind of see what's going on out there, which is really cool. It's yeah, like I said, I really like this thing. Now, on the side, I want to put something else here. Some people have complained that those lights are too bright. Well, when I was at NEAF, the original production run was going to be done with green lights. And I quickly said to ZWO, no, you've got to make those red. And you know what they did? They did what I love about them. They all got their notebooks out and they wrote it down. And they implemented the change. They listened to customer feedback, which is one of the reasons why I think ZWO is so successful. It's because they listen to customer feedback. So those of you who think that it's too bright, just be glad I said something, because it was going to be green. Boy, would it ever been bright and detrimental to your night vision if it had been green. So fortunately, they listened to me there and they made it red. Yeah. Now here's 2 things about this thing that I wish that it had that it doesn't. So, okay. First off, let me tell you about how I've used this. I've never been able to get my family to come outside and do astronomy with me. When I got this, the entire family, including my wife and infant, were all outside in the backyard with me in their easy chairs looking up at the stars with the Seestar. Okay, I've never been able to get that to happen, and this made that happen. Okay, so as far as like an outreach type of device, you know, maybe getting other people interested in the hobby, I think this thing is awesome for that. I mean, this is the kind of device that you take to a party, okay, and you set it up outside and you come inside with your iPad, your phone, and say, hey, this is what's outside right now, you know, and that will just spark people's interest, trust me. And yeah, so this is a great outreach device. Now, there's one little thing I wish it had, okay? And I wish that it had a green laser that would point to the object in the sky, which you could turn on or off and show people, okay, this thing that you're seeing on the screen, that object is right there in the sky. Because I know with my family, when we were out and we were taking pictures and looking at them on the iPad, I had to take out my green laser and kind of point to them, and I had to know where they were and point out in the sky, you know, where approximately that object was. And that way, people could get a connection between, okay, it's there in the sky and this is what we're looking at. And because that's kind of something that I worry about. You know, that's one of the reasons why I never liked go-to scopes, was because it kind of disconnected me, I felt, from the sky, and I always preferred to manually go to different objects, because finding them, number one, was fun, and number two, you know, it just helped me learn the sky better. And I think having maybe a green laser in something like this would improve that. Now the other little thing that I wish that it had would be an option. Okay, I hope ZWO comes out with maybe some sort of wedge for this thing, which would allow you to tilt it and kind of get it semi-polar aligned. And I think that would be fantastic for kind of taking this thing the next step as far as like imaging goes. Because right now, 10-second exposures are kind of your limit for most targets in the sky, and anything longer than that, and you're going to be looking at, you know, field rotation, because it's not a polar aligned optic. This is an alt-az type mount. And so yeah, a wedge I think would be kind of a nice little addition, or maybe an option that somebody could tack on, and in software we could just tell it that, hey, there's a wedge connected to this thing, and then go through some sort of procedure to polar align it roughly, and you could get, you know, even longer exposures, and that would really open narrowband imaging, you know, of course, which I would be a huge fan of. So those are some of my initial thoughts about this device. You know, I think it's a really cool device. There's a couple other companies out there that are trying to compete, and I don't think any of them have quite hit it quite right. Not like this one has. And I will do a full review about this thing once I've had a little more time with it, now that I'm starting to kind of feel a little better. All right? Thank you, and have a good one, folks.